like we at any rate, let me continue. Excuse me, I'm a little distracted by that. If we don't have your email address and you'd like to be on our mailing list, we'd love to have that. And you can put it into the chat, and or you can email, or in the chat you can direct it just to me if you want, or you can put it into the general chat, and that'll give us a record of so we can include you in the future. We'd really like to have that if you're interested. And then the other thing, just to add a little more to what Gail said, we're using closed captioning, or which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. And if for some reason you're not seeing it, I don't know exactly what you do to get it turned on, but take a look at all the options down at the bottom of your display here, and see if there's one to turn it on. But right now, I think it should be displaying for everybody. And so part of this matter of Zoom does save a transcript of all this closed captions, but we don't access it. We don't share it with anybody, and Zoom says they erase it after 30 days. So again, if you have questions or concerns about that part, let Helen, you can chat with Helen on the chat box, because we want to save our time here for the presentation today. And we're going to record. I had intended that we would record from the start of Greg's talk, but it looks like it's on already. So unlike some of our meetings where we do not record, there's an audio recording being saved. Some people, if you don't want your name or your photo displayed, you can let us know, or you can turn it off and just turn off the video on your picture, or even remove your name, because we're hoping that this is something that can be saved and edited into for future use by Homeless Action and other organizations helping the unhoused. So I think that's enough of this preliminaries. Sorry they went on so long. And welcome again to everybody. And now I want to introduce the kind of facilitator and leader of our conversation today, who's Greg Fearon. And he can tell you more if he likes, but I'll just say that he's a very long time and key participant in Homeless Action, which is a Santa Rosa-based county-wide group helping people who are unhoused, and including and empowering many participants who are themselves unhoused, rather than just a benevolent group of more affluent people trying to offer charity. So I think that's pretty impressive and worth noting. And and he's also very involved in Sonoma Applied Village Services. And I think that Adrian's going to be explaining more about that organization a little later. So Greg, why don't I turn the mic over to you, and please go ahead.
Thank you, David. And I want to thank the committee that worked with you to help me understand what it is that you'd like to have us talk about today. For me, it's an exciting opportunity because, as you probably know from your own experiences, we often do what we do in sort of isolation from our colleagues sometimes. We try our best to collaborate and to partner, but having the ability or the opportunity today to just bring ourselves up to date on what each other is doing, what the needs that we might have for collaboration, and to share it with all of you is I think, pretty exciting. And as David says, there are lots of ways in which if there's not much visual presentation that I know of today, so maybe it's just an audio file that people can listen to, and in which case nobody'd see any of your names. But I think that however we do it, it will be both enriching to you and to us. And so again, I want to thank you all for inviting us. Your topic was, there's a lot happening in the county around homeless services at this moment. that's what struck me about when I first heard that you'd like us to talk about what's going on in homeless. It was a moment this month where I said to some people in Homeless Action this morning, I can't remember a time when there were 7 or 8 different programs all getting started at about the same time with a variety of housing opportunities. And I think that hearing how far along they are and where they're going to, when they'll really open and what it's going to look like and what kinds of help we all need from you and others in the community is a real unique opportunity. We have 6, I've invited 6 agency representatives with 6 different programs. 4 of them are here right now. Chuck Fernandez and Annie Philandis, I don't think are on the call yet, but they may join us. While the first speakers are talking, I'm going to be sending them an email saying, hey, did you forget? And join us, please. Chuck is with Petaluma's COTS program, and Annie is over in the Sonoma Valley. And both of their projects are very exciting. So I hope we get to hear from them today. But the 4 that are on the call right now, that are on our Zoom, represent Homeless Action, Grace Shang-Shulman, Adrian Lobby, who is going to speak around Sonoma Applied Village Services. Tim Miller, who is the Executive Director of West County Community Services, and Jenny Lynn Holmes, who has from Catholic Charities a couple of different programs all getting started. And I do want to note that Jenny has to leave at 1 o'clock. And so the question and answer, since we have a little more time than I was expecting, I've asked them all to spend 7 minutes talking about their programs and told them there will be a question and answer period at the end. And so we might want to start with Jenny Lynn before she leaves at 1 o'clock and have you ask any questions of her first. So let me turn it over to Grace, who will start the conversation today by describing Homeless Action and what it needs and has and how we can work together. All right, Grace.
Hi, thank you, Gregory. Thank you for having me here. And I'm pretty much the information person for homelessness issues in Sonoma County. I sort of work in the background, collecting information for Homeless Action. I have been involved since maybe 2014 off and on for the homeless. And then after the fire in 2017, I was really wanting to do something. And then after the pandemic, we're all staying home. And that is when all the information collection happened. I want to I direct you to some websites, but I won't take too much time. I'll just talk about it, and I'll put a document in the chat, which is a link to an online document that you can download later. You can save that link, and it has all the homeless related services, advocacy groups, and so on. And first of all is Homeless Action. We have a website, although we do have a news section, but the focus is pretty much, it is like a database of everything homelessness, not only in Sonoma County, but in California or maybe even the rest of the country, and would like you to go there and search. We list all the advocacy groups, all the service groups in Sonoma County, and also taking examples about, say, other things like Tiny House Village and so on. And we are also on Facebook. You just search for Homeless Action, you'll find us. And another thing is, if you really want to deep dive into, we have a conversation meeting on Monday, 9:30, every Monday, regardless of holidays, to talk about issues. And also the fourth way you can get connected is by asking to be invited to a Google group, which is, you can get information very fast, and also you can respond. And also I noticed that SAVES will be represented here. I have SAVES website on this document. And also any Flanders organization called Homeless Action Sonoma. The acronym is HAS. They have both a website and a Facebook page. And Acts of Kindness it started out as a Facebook group that motivate people to get people to work on various projects and so on. But anyway, I won't go into that, and I will just put this on the chat now. Thank you, Gregory.
Great. Thank you, Grace. I'm looking in the chat now, and I appreciate it. It's a valuable resource to be able to put links in there. And again, we hope we can not just be helpful in this particular presentation, but help any of you who want to link with any of the programs that are either presented or that you find out about and have an interest in. I did get in the chat a question from Jerry, because SHARE is another valuable program. And the question is, can Jerry say something about SHARE? And of course, we're filling the time you've given us, and we want to try and be as efficient as possible. And I still don't know what's happening with Annie and Chuck. So let's just hold it. And Jerry, be prepared if we, and I certainly think we might have time to have you present a little on what SHARE's up to. All right, Adrian. Adrian represents Sonoma Applied Village Services. She's our president. I'm on the board, and take it away, Adrian.
Thank you, Gregory, and thank you everybody for being here. I'm really looking forward to the question and answer session, and seeing all the people from the League of Women Voters it's really exciting. I expected all you interfaith folks, and to add League people, and of course everyone else who's here. It's just it's very wonderful. So SAVES is Sonoma Applied Village Services. It's a relatively new nonprofit, I guess maybe 2.5 years now. We're in the business of taking care of homeless people. Our mission is to set up tiny villages for homeless people, either with tiny homes, with RVs, or even with tents. But to bring people out of the bushes and out of the cold and bring them into a place where there's a managed situation, where they have trash and sanitation and some help getting their lives back online. We've been really fortunate. The county has given us money to do some outreach work. We did a huge program of feeding people for the first year. And then we had outreach workers who worked with individual clients and just basically tried to help people that they found along the way. Right now, we're going through a huge expansion because we've got another large contract and money again from the county to start an RV village in Sebastopol. And this will be our first village, so it's on some level a pilot project. We can have 20 to 22 vehicles there. It's an acre lot, very flat, has some utilities already on it. And we're hoping to open it middle of January. We're just this week getting into the property for the first time. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. And the whole point of this for the Sebastopol City Council, who just approved it last Tuesday, is they want people off of Morris Street. And for those of you who don't run into Sebastopol very often, Morris Street borders on the Barlow, which is a big shopping and drinking and dining area. And they want the parking there. The City Council has allowed people in vehicles to park there without harassing them. They provided porta potties and trash pickup. It's one of the few places in the county where this has happened, where the city actually supports a camp of homeless people. But it was becoming, you know, they wanted to do more. That's part of it. They really wanted to help people in a better way than just letting them camp on the side of a street. But also they were getting pressured from the business community. So we've got this situation. St. Vincent de Paul stepped up at a critical moment and actually bought the property and put the down payment on it. And there was a lot of hostility, as there almost always is in any low income project, and especially a homeless project. So we've been through, 3 rather large and vocal meetings, but we got an unanimous approval by the city council, which is huge. And we'll still be doing a lot of neighborhood outreach and communication. Have a big meeting coming up with the charter, Sebastian Charter School, which is a Waldorf school. It's about half a mile from the site. And people are very, worried about the children. It's disheartening, I have to say. You see all the stereotypes and fears just trotted out like they're truths. And also, I think one of the things I've learned from all of this, well, one is how incredibly engaged Sebastopolians are. They found out about this quickly. They showed up at meetings. They were well-educated, well-articulated people. And even though I didn't agree with a lot of them, I have to really admire that. So I kind of lost my train of thought here, but because it was a little traumatic, we had some tough questions. But we're going to set up a community advisory committee, and I think people will start to funnel their complaints there. Oh, that's the thing I wanted to tell you about, is what I learned is that Sebastopol, which I think of as a kind of boutique-y, middle class, upper middle class town, has a significant problem with homelessness. It's not a lot different than Santa Rosa or Rohnert Park. And I was assuming that, they had this little place on Morris Street. They have a few other kind of places where people camp, but I was surprised at how much businesses and individuals feel impacted by homelessness. And of course, most of it came in the form of complaining and saying these people and pointing fingers, but ultimately it just tells us that this problem is all of ours and it's bigger. We're going to take care of 22 people. That'll be the bulk of the people that park on Morris. It's not the bulk of the people in Sebastopol, and it's certainly not anywhere close to the 2,000 people who are on the streets with no shelter like last night. So as somebody said in one of the meetings, it's a drop in the bucket, but it's an important drop. I know Jenny Lynn is probably going to talk about their safe parking, and I just have to make a nod that there's money coming down from the state and the federal government that hasn't been there before. And there's also this kind of understanding that we can't wait for affordable housing to be built, that takes 4 or 5 years. In the meantime, people's lives are shortened and they're just suffering too much. So Rohnert Park is starting a tiny home village. Petaluma is starting one. I think maybe Chuck Show is here too, so he'll talk about that. But that is a really significant advance, especially in kind of the philosophy of homelessness and what are we going to do about it. We need 20 to 30 of these things to actually take care of the 2,000 people who, whatever number of that, who are willing to get into a managed situation. So there's still a lot of work to do, but I've been doing this stuff for 8 years, and I got to say, this is like a hopeful moment. So in terms of our organization, we are growing. We're in a period of intense growth. So we had 1.5 people doing outreach work, 1.5 people. Pretty soon we're going to have 4.5 people. And that means all of our systems, all of our, our personnel committee, our operations manual, everything has to be lots of communication and growing pains. But of course, it's very exciting, and we can do a whole lot more than we were able to do last year. The situation for homeless people, it seems to me that there are more chronically homeless people than there were in the past. That 2,000 figure is, it includes people who just became homeless yesterday, and they still have friends, and they still have places they can be on couches, and they still have ways to get food, and maybe their car is still running well and is well registered. But when I say chronically homeless, I'm talking about people who basically lost everything. They don't have any resources. They've spent all of their reserves on on motel rooms in desperation. They've often turned to drugs to ameliorate it, or alcohol to just get through the day. And there's a huge amount of despair that lives in that community. There's also a huge amount of love and support for each other. A lot of people know each other. They help each other in various ways. But I have to say that hope is in short supply. It's probably the most precious thing that we can bring to homeless people. I mean, blankets, socks, sleeping bags, especially in the winter. Yeah, we need them. But as much as you can provide hope to any individual, and that's gold, and it is really, really important. So I thank you all for doing that, because I know you do. I know many of you do it. And the bigger picture, I'm expecting the economy to get worse. I'm expecting that more people are going to get thrown out of their housing as the tenants, there's been tenant protections and those have gone away, and COVID is still here. And so sadly, although I see a lot of positive things going on, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so I beg you all to be tolerant and accepting, because it probably will impact you, your neighborhood, your family, your friends, and stick by the people that you can. I get emails from people who say, I have a friend who's going through, whatever, just lost their home, or they've been homeless for years, whichever it is. And the fact that they have a friend who is willing to write to me is the most important marker, I believe, that they will get through this. Because having someone who is housed, who has got some kind of functional supported life on your side, makes a tremendous difference. So, I know that it can be a huge burden, especially if your life is already stressed out, to have a homeless person in your life. Their needs seem to be deep and long. But as much as you can hold on by protect your own security, don't give up your own life, because you need your life and health to continue. But as much as you can support them in an ongoing way, it really, really matters. It is a life-saving project. Let's see, a couple things have come up in Sebastopol I wanted to mention. Oh, right. The one thing we have left over is the charter school people are really leaning on us to do background checks for everyone. And our philosophy is you start clean when you come into a village. We're behavioral based. If you can live with your neighbors inside the village and outside the village, you're welcome. And if you can't, you're not welcome. But it's not about your past or, whatever patterns you have in your life, you get to start over. So the idea of doing background checks is really hard for us to accept. And my initial connection with the residents, the potential residents, they really had a reaction to it. It was like, this is like jail. Why are you asking me to do things that other people don't have to go through? So that's a big issue that we don't know what we're doing with yet. We'd love to have feedback on it. The other thing is that Sebastopol, I think Gregory mentioned this, someone did, they're going to put some regulations on Morris Street. They don't want to help these people and then suddenly have 20 more people right on the same street. We don't know what those are going to be, but there's a significant group who are pushing and saying, we need parking regulations all through the city. And that is code for, let's help 20 people and throw everybody else out. And we don't like being part of that. We don't like being the excuse for that. And again, it's a fight at the city council level, which we'll do what we can. Now we're contracted under the city, so it's a little hard for us to be real political with it. But something that we should all be.
No, neither of them, as far as I know.
And I think that's about all. I don't know if I've used my time or not, but I think that's the heart of what I needed to say.
Thank you, Adrian. We've got 4 more speakers. We're going to go next to Tim Miller and then Jenny Lynn Holmes. Then we're going over down to Petaluma to Chuck, and then we'll pick up at the end with Jerry. Okay, so Tim, you're on.
Thank you, Gregory. So again, Tim Miller with West County Community Services. We serve largely West County with our senior counseling and behavioral health, employment and housing and homeless services programs. But specific to today, just very quickly about what we do and then what our plans for and what we see. We run the Gardenville Winter Shelter every year, though this year it's now a COVID-19 navigation center. It's been open 24 months. We never closed 2 winters ago. So we have 27 people inside 24/7 now as a COVID navigation center. We also have permanent supportive housing in Gardenville. And increasingly we're mixing and mutually supporting housing and homeless services with mental health services. We have the county's largest peer behavioral health program. Peer behavioral health meaning our 25 employees all have mental health challenges. There are staff members and they are tasked with working with walk-in folks that have their mental health challenges. We have 4 centers, 1 in Monterey, 2 in Santa Rosa, and 1 in Petaluma. We are this week submitting a home key application with the county to purchase what was George's Hideaway in Gardenville, former bar and restaurant. One of our peer behavioral health programs, the Empowerment Center, which we've run for 12 years on the Lower Russian River, will be moving into that facility so that the 20 people in permanent supportive housing and the service navigation center there, which will be open to anybody who's homeless, and we'll have a shuttle. We'll have 32 hours a week of mental health services on site through peer behavioral health programs for their needs. So we're excited about that if it's funded by the state. Also in Sebastopol, we have a site called Park Village that we're adding 2 new apartments to that should be opening this month. It's a formerly half-filled mobile home park, very low income. And we're in our 5th year with the city, where the city let us put 8 new trailers, which we purchased, on there, hooked up to sewer, water, and electricity, and moved homeless families into those trailers. And we have a full-time case manager who lives on site, and we are now the park manager. It's called Park Village, right across from the Barlow on Highway 12. It's been a great success and very cost efficient for the city of Sebastopol. Likewise, we have outreach workers. We have 2 whole person care, integrating again housing and mental health services, 1 on the river and 1 in Santa Rosa who works in the jail and other places to support people with severe and persistent mental illness and to segue them into housing. And we have an outreach worker paid for by the city of Sebastopol who focuses on homeless services and connecting people who are homeless to housing and other services for the city. And then we have a very large rapid rehousing program that covers all of West County. And rapid rehousing is, for those of you who don't know, is focused on 2 populations. People who are at, this is more for people, generally speaking, who it's an idea to stop people from falling deeper into homelessness. So there's 2 categories. We supply rental assistance and support for people who are about to become homeless. They've received a pay or quit notice from a landlord. Perhaps they're working and our case manager works with them on a schedule to say, hey, we'll help you find a new place with a housing navigator. And so you don't fall and have to live into your car on the street. And then we'll subsidize your rent for a few months, ever decreasing amounts while we transition you into housing. The second one is people who have recently become homeless, and we do the same with them. So we have services that go all the way from the shelter or the COVID navigation center to permanent supportive housing. And as I mentioned, we see the future really, if we're going to be practical about this, we have to increasingly integrate substance support and mental health support if we're going to meet the real tenets of housing first, which require us to work with the most vulnerable in our population. And we see peer support as a key way to do that. We do have an application we're submitting for the ARPA funding, the American Recovery Act funding, called Transitions, that was developed over 2 years by our peer staff. And what it does is it focuses using peers who are trained in housing support to work with people coming out of jail, who are coming out of a shelter, and who are moving into housing or who recently moved into housing but have lost their homeless community, that they work for the first month 12 hours a week, and then 10 hour or 11 hours a week the second month, 10 hours a week the third month, over the course of a year down to 1 hour a week, to really take these really high need fragile people and make sure they stabilize and are successful in housing. So that's what we see our future being. I agree with Adrian that we're in a kind of a fraught time with homelessness and housing for everybody. There's a lot of rental assistance out for the emergency rental assistance program that came from the state. We have $7 million we're managing for anybody who's can't pay their rent or the utilities due to COVID-19. So that's kind of homeless prevention for the regularly housed population. And a lot of agencies, Catholic Charities has that as well. But focused on the chronically homeless and the more traditional homeless population. What I mentioned earlier, those are our programs and will be going into the future. So thank you. Thank
you, Tim. We've got 16 minutes before 1 o'clock, and both Jenny Lynn and Chuck have to leave at 1. So I'm going to go directly to Jenny to talk about Catholic Charities.
Yeah, so I'll try to be quick and efficient, although we do a lot. So I won't go into the history of everything we do. I'm sure many of you are familiar with some of the things we do. If not, I'm always happy to do a follow-up phone call or email to provide more services or more description. I think I'll just focus on 2 of our really big upcoming endeavors. The first is safe parking, which is what originally I think why I was invited to attend today. We're really excited that last week the Santa Rosa City Council approved our contract to provide safe parking services here in Santa Rosa. Some of you might remember we did provide safe parking many years ago. It was kind of the original pilot for actually a lot of the state and definitely here locally. And so we lost that due to some funding changes, and we're really excited to be seeing it coming back, but not only coming back in the form it was at, but also even more enhanced, providing housing navigation and support, which we didn't have in our first iteration of safe parking. I'm really excited these are popping up all over our community because we do need it geographically represented and providing that care across the county. One of the things that we have been really fortunate to be partnering on is really trying to increase the diversity of interim housing options for those who are experiencing homelessness. We all know the end goal is housing, and I think we all are housing advocates and fight for that. And you can talk about all of us as service partners and organizations. But at the end of the day, we need a safe place for people to be while we continue to work on the long-term housing strategy. And we partnered with the city of Santa Rosa to do the Finley Safe Social Distancing Program, which provided tents and kind of a managed encampment type project. And we really learned that it worked well with being able to keep people engaged, know where they're at, and continue them on the pathway towards housing. So we see safe parking as the next step for that. We're going to be providing up to 50 spots at the City of Santa Rosa, as it's called, the Utility and Fields Office. It's across from the Finley Park. And we're going to be providing not only on-site operational support, but also on-site housing navigation, case management, and location for individuals. We were, like I mentioned, awarded approved the contract last week. We'll start the site preparations in January, which I think others on this call, we had a great chat with Saves last week on some of the logistics of actually setting up a safe parking site. There's a lot of it: water, sewer, food, laundry, all these things that you don't have when you have an actual facility around you. And so there's a lot of logistics to figure out, but we'll start that in January with the hope that in February, we'll be able to start what we're calling a soft rollout of the program. We'll start accepting some individuals into the program as we continue to ramp up to the full amount of the spots. So we're excited about safe parking in Santa Rosa, as well as kind of the safe parking sites starting in Sonoma County. Like I mentioned, had a great chat with Adrian and Gregory last week. And I think one of the things we can do is maybe start meeting more collaboratively around the uniqueness of our safe parking sites, but also how can we create some economies of scale around food service and laundry service and some of the security services that we're all being required to provide, even though by different parts of our elements. So I think there will be a lot of learnings we can share with one another, and I'm looking forward to that. The other quick thing, which is it's not a quick thing, but I'll try to make it quick, is the Caritas Village in our downtown Santa Rosa. I'm hoping many of you have heard of that quite exciting project, or you've driven by it and seen the building being constructed. So just a quick recap for those that don't know about it. And my colleague Rebecca, I believe, is on this call as well. And she really knows this as well. So if I have to pop up, she can help answer questions if I have to leave. But Caritas Village is a state-of-the-art innovative new project that I haven't been able to find another version of in the nation, actually. So it's kind of a multiple components. There's the Caritas Center and the Caritas Homes. So really quickly, the Caritas Homes is 128 units of affordable housing we're going to be building in partnership with Burbank Housing over the next several years. But Caritas Center is kind of on the fast track for opening, and that's really where some of the really exciting innovation that we're going to be modeling, hopefully here locally and across the different parts of our communities. So Caritas Center is multiple parts of what Catholic Charities already provides, but creating it in a building that was really designed for those experiencing homelessness, and as a way to really provide wraparound support in one part of our community rather than sending them to multiple places across our community, making the challenge and access harder for them as they continue to seek services. So really quickly, Caritas Center will, one component of it will be our Family Support Center, which is currently located at that site. Will be 192 beds for families experiencing homelessness. And one of the really exciting pieces there is we're also going to be providing on-site childcare, early childcare for the kids who will be living at that site, as well as after-school programming, other supportive services for the families that are there. The next component will be our Nightingale respite care program. Will be going from 13 beds in our Brookwood campus up to 38 beds here at this site. And for those that aren't familiar with the model, it's respite care is for individuals who are experiencing homelessness that need on-site medical care and on-site respite care being discharged from the hospitals. And one of the really exciting components of that will be that the second floor of our Nightingale respite shelter will also be a mobile health clinic, or not a mobile health clinic, a health clinic, full-scale health clinic by Santa Rosa Community Health Center, providing on-site medical care and mental health care for the individuals living there. Another component is our drop-in center. Many of you are familiar, or sometimes you hear it referred to as 600 Morgan Street or Homeless Services Center. That's currently an 1,800 square foot building that we were providing for services for individuals to come in and take showers, get laundry, and get connected with an outreach worker. This is now going to be a much larger facility, again, really designed for the individuals coming off of the streets and needing to kind of get warm and get what we call basic dignity services. And that will be located at the site and also have direct access to the medical clinic there. And then lastly, what we call the secret sauce to everything we do, we will have on site with all of these different components. We will have our housing navigation team, our housing stabilization team, and our housing location team. So individuals will have all of the support they need from us at the moment, hopefully all located at one site. So we're not sending them to different parts of our community. They come to one location and are able to get the care and need, hopefully all at one time. So that project is huge. That it does not do it justice for how exciting it is. We are about halfway-ish done with construction. The percentage changes every day. But we are planning to open middle of next year, and it'll obviously be a kind of ramp up to our full execution of the entire program. But we are beyond excited. And when I stand in that building, it is very humbling. And a little overwhelming, but mostly humbling and exciting to see how we're changing the landscape, hopefully, of downtown, but also of the services that we provide, and providing them in a much more trauma-informed and way that really serves and provides access to the population. So again, I'll put some more information in the chat. You can go to our website, learn a lot more. And again, all of this, we're always happy to follow up and discuss more. Rebecca, did I miss anything big on there?
No, I know Chuck's waiting to go too, but if you want to come to the grand opening of Caritas Center, just go onto our website. I'll put the link in the chat and you can sign up for the newsletter if you're not already a part of it, and you'll get an invitation.
All right, thank you very much. Chuck, you're on.
Gregory, thank you. You know, my father once told me that, son, whenever you give a speech, make sure you never follow a banker. What he failed to say is never follow Catholic Charities because it's a act to follow. And I will tell Jenny Lynn and Rebecca Kotz is super excited for Caritas. So I think the community desperately needs that. So I'm just going to share 3 quick projects that we're doing right now because I think that was the impetus for this. One is, as you know, People's Village. It's a tiny homes village with 25 units. They're all made from Quick Haven, which is a local manufacturer in Rohnert Park. Quick Haven employs people with lived experience to build and assemble the units. We're hoping to get that started. We were hoping the end of December, but I think with the disruption to the supply chain, that may be in January. But nevertheless, we'll be up and running no later than January or February. These units have a 30-year life. They're cost $12,500 a piece. They're 70 square feet, so they're not huge, but they're all insulated, code compliant with state of California, et cetera. A lot of the money for that will be from ARPA and the city of Petaluma. Like Catholic Charities, we also got some money last week from the county. So a few quick numbers, it cost us about $338,000 to purchase the units and 2 mobile offices. The city of Petaluma will own them. About $160,000 to purchase mobile showers and mobile bathrooms. $370,000.
Alexa, stop.
Pardon me?
Go on, Chuck.
$370,000 for site improvements. And about $493,000 is what it'll cost us every year for annual operating. We have got a People's Village FAQ and a program manual. More than happy to share that with you. Gregory, if you want, I can send those to you and you can disseminate them to your colleagues on this call.
Thank you.
The second project we have is our steamer landing in Junction. We converted our Kids First and Family Shelter, which has 11 rooms and 38 beds, to move the people who want to go in there from steamer landing for 3.5 months. And we moved our families to a local motel. So again, that's part of the whole injunction. We wanted to get people off of steamer landing and in someplace safe and warm. And funding for that came from the city, the county. And then the last project we have, pretty big project, is our home key. We partnered with City of Petaluma and Burbank. We submitted our application last week for 60 units in Petaluma. So basically that's it. And again, Gregory, I can send you some information on our People's Village that gets into a lot more of the detail that I don't need to get into on this call.
Great. And we'll make sure that all of the people on the call receive it through David and the Interfaith Council. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. That's it for me.
Thanks, Chuck. Good luck.
Thanks.
See you, Jenny. Okay, now, Jerry, we'd love to hear more about Share.
Can I interject something, please, before Jerry?
Sure.
I just wanted to remind, some people joined us after our opening remarks, and I just want to reiterate that anybody who is not yet on our Interfaith Council's database and mailing list, and which gives out a monthly announcement of faith, interfaith, and humanitarian projects and events, please put your email address either into the chat for generally or into the chat directed to me by name. And because we would really love to have a way to communicate with everyone. And if there's someone who doesn't really want to be on our mailing list, but would like to get the materials that that Gregory and Chuck were talking about, or others were talking about just from this chat, just make note of that. Say, I'd like to get the mailings from this chat, but I'm not really interested in being on the Interfaith Council's mailing list. We really need to get that information if we possibly can. So thanks very much. Oh, and the other thing is, for those who didn't hear the announcement earlier, this is being recorded. We're going to be maybe editing this into something that Gregory can use and other organizations helping the unhoused as public information. So if somebody is uncomfortable having their picture or their name displayed, you can turn it off. Otherwise, we'll just be proceeding with this, but we want people to know that this is being recorded today, which isn't always the case. Okay, thanks. And excuse me, Jerry, for interrupting. Please go ahead.
David, it's such a pleasure to see you. It's, we've known each other for years, and so I'm really pleased to give you any time I want. And by way of introduction, I think anyone who's not familiar with this system really does have to understand that in our community in Sonoma County, in most counties anyway, it really is about collaboration. So when we talk about the original safe parking that Catholic Charities did, it was Homeless Action who brought that project in 2012 to the attention of the county. And then the county funded it and Catholic Charities picked it up. You can hear, with Chuck and Jenny Lynn, the collaboration and with Saves, and we're all in this together. Nobody, it's not proprietary. It's just making things happen and working together on rapid rehousing. So that's my experience with Share in terms of collaborating with all of the people in the system who are providers. So Share is Shared Housing and Resource Exchange. It's been in Petaluma and it's based in Santa Rosa now, but it's two kinds of things. One is it's matching. So if I have an extra bedroom, and that tends to be older people, especially older women, often have a room in their house and they'd like somebody to live with them, or they'd like some extra income, rental income, or they need some supportive services, not health services, but other kinds of household services. Share is able to create affordable housing in those settings. So we're the people that Share has served over the years have been either very low income or low income. And often that's both sides of the equation, both the provider as well as the seeker. So we do matching. We have currently, there's Amy Appleton is the director. We have 2 housing specialists for North County and South County. We have a case manager, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And then we also have office staff that does the intake kinds of things. And these are all people mostly with gerontology backgrounds, but also with human services and those backgrounds. What's happened recently is the sort of advent and buildup of what we call community houses. So in the traditional Share, it's the owner living with someone else in their home. In the community houses, they're like master leasing, where the landlord leases the house or facilitates Share making the placements into the house. And then so with changes, and in Roanoke Park in particular, with some of the student housing, in the recent past, we were able to open an 8-bedroom house on San Simeon in Roanoke Park, and then we also did Beverly in Roanoke Park, and then as a result of that, and also as a result of working with some realtors, we have 2 more houses that are pending in Santa Rosa. And we fill those up as quickly as they become available. And the rents are, unheard of in Sonoma County, depending on, like a Share or particularly a service exchange can go everything from $0 up to $1,000 a month, depending on the level of service. Or like in the community houses, we were able to bring those in at around $650 or $700 a month. That's not easy for somebody who's on SSI if they're only bringing in $920, but it's definitely a permanent home. It's a place that's their home. They're living with other people and they're forming community in that setting. Then where do these people come from? Look at the screen. So the folks who are doing the transitional housing and the tiny villages, those folks, once they're stabilized, will move on to a share house, or lots and lots of both the Catholic Charities, the Sam Jones folks, as well as people coming out of COTS. They just need enough stability, and then they can move on and do something. So share fills that sort of next niche after transitional housing. And then there's also people who are awaiting approval, like at Bethlehem Towers, for example, but that can take years. There was a partnership with PEP Housing, the same thing. When there's, facilitating some kind of a share while the individual is waiting for their own place at Bethlehem or PEP or one of the other places. So it's all about collaboration. It's all about, valuing community. And thank you for inviting me to comment.
Great, thanks, Jerry. Now we have, there was one more participant who hasn't shown up. Annie Philandis is from Sonoma Valley. And I want to ask Adrian if she's willing to, because we are partnering with Annie and Homeless Action Sonoma on the project over there. Did you just give us a little sense of what they're trying to do and how far along they are? And I think she might have.
Annie is a one-woman energy bunny. I mean, she has done amazing things over there. She started out with a weekly barbecue, inviting homeless people to have a barbecue. She now has a barbecue that homeless people do every week. She has put money down on a piece of property to own it. She's going to put up 18 little huts, kind of like the COTS situation. So she can move the people she knows immediately into some kind of shelter. And then she's building a facility where they will eventually live with apartments. So it's a huge project and she's gotten money to do each step of it so far. We're hoping to help some with the management of the little tiny homes. Takes 2 years to build the bigger facility, the live-in facility. So that's the timeline she's got on it. And she has, like I say, this Sunday afternoon barbecue, which is open to everyone. And I encourage any of you, especially who live in that area, go over there and meet the homeless people. And I don't know, touch Annie's hand because she's got magic and we all need a little bit of it. She's incredibly compassionate. And she had asked 2 homeless people to live in her house. And she's glowing about how that's worked out. So similar to what Cher is doing. We're seeing that somewhat across the county, and I think that's always been true. People have invited people into their homes, but it's really nice to see this whole project happening. And I think in lieu of answering questions and having you all talk, I'm going to just shut up now.
Thanks, Adrian. Okay, now is the time for questions. And I asked if people were going to raise their hand or do the Zoom hand raising. How would I know who wants the first question? But okay, and I see Jerry with his hand up. So we'll start with Jerry.
Yeah, thank you, Gregory. So I want to answer Helen Baum's question where she wrote, how do you deal with conflict between individuals within the shared housing places? In the individual home matches, like the elder and the housemate, there's a whole screening process that, in terms of an application process and an interview process. There's a criminal background check on the seekers, not always on the providers. But always on the seekers. Share, once you become part of Share, you're basically a member. And it's an informal thing, but we don't abandon people. So when these conflicts happen, so if Helen and I were living together and we're like, this isn't working out, we can call, one of the housing specialists or Amy and say, this isn't working out. And they come and work with us. They talk about what the issue is. We strongly encourage people to tell us about problems early, because then they don't deteriorate to a breakup. And in the community houses that we're starting, we've actually we're able to get funded for a case manager. What we were finding was the housing specialists would be working on new placements, but then old placements would start to for lack of a better word, deteriorate. Things would happen, people's health conditions changed or something like that. And so we now have a case manager whose specific task is to work, especially with the people in the community houses, to have contact and avoid conflicts or reasonably manage conflicts. Because yes, there's going to be conflicts because we're people, and then so that's how we handle it.
Okay, now I'm going to ask David to help me spot people because my screen only shows me one of the pages, but doesn't go to the second page. So if anybody else has a question, speak up now or use one of the options to let us know that you want to speak. Nobody has a question?
Or maybe a comment?
Or a comment, yeah, something that you just want all of us to hear. Okay, Ken, did I see your hand?
Yeah.
Great.
Is there much hope for working toward getting some acreage from the old Sonoma Developmental Center? Is anybody working on that? Set aside as a master planned portion of that acreage for these purposes for the homeless. Akin to the project that really caught my eye in a film about Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Austin.
Anybody want to take a shot?
So I can tell you not very much, and maybe there's someone here who knows more, but the last thing I saw, there was no provision for homelessness on that property. The best was a couple of processes which had more or less affordable housing. So you could vote on, more or less affordable housing. The trade-offs were there, but I have not seen a really active, engaged group trying to get homeless situations over there, and I'm sure it would have been a tough road if they had. But maybe someone knows more than me.
David.
I'm just adding a related question to Ken's, which is I have the same question about the Sinead Road property. It looked to me as though now it got sold off at a giveaway price to some housing developer, and it's probably headed towards elite McMansion housing and so on. But I remember back during the time of Occupy that there was actually thought about just occupying space there, either some of the unused buildings or some and moving in with just a camping in defiance of the absence of housing for unhoused people. And that kind of went by the boards for a number of reasons, but I've never forgotten that. I see that beautiful green space, and I think it either some of it should survive as green space, and some of it should be offered to people who need housing. And I'm just wondering, along with Ken's question, likewise, there's a same question about the Sinead property.
Well, I can tell you, David, that we have had informally people occupying Sinead continually. Up until about 3 months ago, I knew somebody who's been living there quite a long time. But you have to stay totally out of sight, and you obviously have to be willing to move at a moment's notice. And this guy that I knew had moved 3 times. People don't understand that there's like 60,000 square feet of inside space inside the hospital and all of the buildings around it that were not ever subject to asbestos or air conditioning or other things. And that parking lot behind it, I was really upset when the county moved its vehicles in there and its tractors and everything that they could and put a fence around it, because it could have been the first version of a safe parking spot. But you're right, it's probably not on the cards for the new developer, but it does go through Santa Rosa. So those of you who live in Santa Rosa, that project and its approval as to how many low-income units and how low the low-income units are will be a source of great discussion when it starts to go through the planning process of the city of Santa Rosa. Because even though it was county property, the city of Santa Rosa has control over what goes in there. So I haven't given up on it yet. And one other thing, you're hearing today a lot of what we think of as transitional and sometimes permanent housing, depending on how you define housing. But all of us need permanent housing, and we need to have either the money that's coming down or the properties that are being converted to not be simply for the rich. We've got to be able to really put teeth into the city and the county's commitment to have inclusionary zoning and have housing built within the projects that reaches down into the income levels that our folks are trying to reach up to. Their promises every time they put a development together to, oh, sure, we'll house everybody. And so I'm particularly, with a lot of other people, trying to make sure that the promises that developers give, and you've seen a whole lot of recent news articles about, developers who got money long ago who abandoned that whole principle. So hopefully with the city and the county doubling down on their supervision and monitoring, and all of us trying to make it as easy as possible for people to get onto those waiting lists and to get their documentation together and to be able to be competitive to get into those spots, that maybe Sinead will turn out to have some homeless and previously homeless in their midst.
Let me interject one more thing. And we have Gail Yamamoto Seymour and Leona Judson are waiting to. So let me interject quickly, though. We're going to dispense with anything like announcements because it's clearly an active discussion that's going to run right up to 1:30. And if Greg or anyone else is available to stay a few minutes after, in case people still want to talk, we can actually keep this room open till 2. But I didn't pre-arrange that with Greg, so I don't want to put him on the spot. So that's the two things I wanted to let you know, that we have a couple of people with hands up, and that we're not going to do announcements. We're going to run right up to 1:30, and if anyone's available, we can tarry a bit beyond 1:30 for more discussion.
Okay, Gail, you're on, and Leona right behind her.
Am I on?
Yes.
Go for it, Leona. You've got yours muted first.
Oh, yeah, Gail, you're not on yet. You're muted.
I'll go second.
Yeah, whoever'd like to go.
Oh. So, okay, do you want me to go ahead first? I'm not sure who's on. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I had a question. I guess, is Rebecca still here from?
She is.
Yeah. So is the current Family Support Center, which is also a Catholic Charities program, that was housed in the old General Hospital. Will that be closed down when the Charities, am I saying that right? Charities project gets up and running? And if so, what will happen to the old General Hospital property?
Actually, I spoke too soon because I don't see Rebecca on the call anymore.
Oh.
But I can take that question and get back to you with it. It's my understanding that the project site is the same site as the General Hospital, so that it will entirely disappear. Because they're not moving to a separate site, they're just revising and remodeling the same site. There is, however, Jenny Lynn asked if anybody wanted to go tour it, that she would set up tours. So if you're interested in seeing what it looks like now and see all drawings about what it will be and learn more about it, we can certainly set that up.
So the new building will be the family housing, the 170 that she mentioned.
Yeah.
And then the current location of the hospital will be torn down, and that'll become high-rise affordable housing. So the project is actually in 3 phases. They're building Caritas Center first so they can occupy it, and then tear down the rest and build housing onto that.
But the entire block is the project.
Yeah.
Gail, you're up next.
I just had a quick question. I was taking notes. Thank you very much. Very good presentations. This is so valuable. I was wondering if there's a resource list that lists all the different programs, phone numbers, contact people.
You're on, Grace.
Oh, let me quickly say something, Greg. I noticed, Gail, that I think you joined after that was posted to the chat. So let's post it again, because if you come in at like 12:10 and the thing got posted at 12:05, you won't be able to see it.
Yeah.
So,
I have
Gail,
just posted it. a few seconds ago.
Okay, so it's up again. That's great
Okay.
then.
If you see a very long link, that is it. But basically, the best source of information in terms of who is doing what, it would be going to the homelessaction.net website. And it would have list of all the organizations. Now, it may not be very up to date in terms of we're not a news organization. But one thing you can do is to go to the Facebook page of Homeless Action and also some other organizations I mentioned about, and you would get the most up-to-date information.
Thank you very much. That's great.
But Gail, we're going to bring it up to date as soon as we can, because a lot of the things you're hearing about are, almost too new to be able to have good descriptions of. And today is a good result of today is that we're going to have better descriptions of what's going on in the next couple of months.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, Helen's got one.
Helen's got.
Greg, could you comment on the county continuum of care
Yes.
process?
Let me tell you that there is for those of you who don't know, continuum of care is a creation of the County Board of Supervisors. It was their to be able to bring everybody together to the same table and to particularly allocate the money that comes from the feds and the state, though the feds were there first. The feds have a requirement that homeless services that they fund have certain components, one of which was no wrong door, so that anywhere you showed up, you could get into the system. And we're still working on trying to do that. Also a database system called HMIS, but more than having those products, it was a process where on an ongoing basis, a group of, in this case, 15 people get together from a variety of different careers, viewpoints. There's some politicians on there. There's some lived experience folks on there. There's funders, and they, at least on a monthly basis, and sometimes more frequently with their committees, wrestle with the issues of how to plan, how to implement, and how to coordinate homeless programs. That's called the continuum of care. And it's run through, the staffing of it is through the County Community Development Commission. Now, they are in the process right now of asking who wants to be on that board. They staggered their terms, and they have some terms that are open right now. And there are voting will take place in January and February, and there will be a new board which will continue on with the same kinds of activities. A lot of us hope that it can really bring together the city of Santa Rosa, the county of Sonoma, Petaluma, Roner Park, Atati, all of the cities in even West County, North County, and East, who don't have necessarily real active homeless program coordination going on yet. A lot of them are catching up very quick, but not to have everybody be doing it in isolation from each other, but trying to figure out ways of blending their talent, their skills, their knowledge, and their services. We as providers all over the county, would definitely benefit from that, because we don't like running all over the county trying to figure out who's going to give us what. It would be a whole lot simpler if they could be coordinating their activities. When they put out RFPs, they could be thinking about, not just simply serving the only people, they serve would be those in their city. That's my own personal opinion. The other thing is there are more monies than they have control over. As some of you know, I sit on the review board, the working board for ARPA monies for the county. $96 million that we're trying to figure out tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors. A full description of our recommendations will come out, and that's not even housing money. That's not even money they have their fingers on. It goes directly to the city of Santa Rosa or to the county of Sonoma, or as you heard earlier, Petaluma, and it can be done completely without any regard to what else is happening. I know sometimes that's good because, really renegade entities might create something that the group would never agree to. On the other hand, they do it sometimes without knowing what the other does. So the continuum of care is a potentially valuable and still struggling agency to try to coordinate homeless services. Is that what you wanted, Helen? Great. Glad to have been of service. One more thing, just because I'm on that board, I want to encourage all of you, whether it's for housing or for any other particular program. ARPA is my passion right now. It's still, tomorrow you're going to hear that there's still 56 million bucks we're going to put on the table for RFPs in January, February, March to try to give the money away by May. And anything that looks like it's going to improve the lives of those in particular who were affected by coronavirus, mostly poor folks, mostly folks who've never been at the table and had any of their needs met. We want you to put in applications for serving those folks. We want it, and we're not even saying that you have to right now be nonprofits. We're trying to help you funnel your program and your idea through existing nonprofits in a kind of a fiscal sponsor, supervising agency, whatever. But this is the most creative chunk of money I've ever seen. And sure, some of it's going to go to the county. We have a $8 million approval tomorrow for a public health lab in order to do the testing faster. But the rest of the money is really going to be open to a whole lot more community organizing. And so I encourage you to think about it and maybe watch the Board of Supervisors meeting tomorrow.
Gail still has your hand up, and I didn't know, Gail, if you had another question or if you just was left up from your earlier.
And Nancy has her hand up too.
And Nancy just raised her hand. So.
Oh, no, I didn't have another question. This is Gail. Sorry, I left my hand up.
Okay.
Nancy. You're muted, Nancy. There.
One of my questions is for what language? Are there provisions made for different languages?
For the ARPA, definitely. We've got to, we're heading wholeheartedly into translation language, reaching out to a whole lot of folks who have whose main language isn't English. But for homeless services, we are, like a lot of programs, still struggling to try to hire folks who are fluent in other languages and whose culture represent those populations. So not as boldly, because that hasn't been a pressure on us, but as far as wanting to, I know every one of those folks who were on our call today want to serve everyone.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We got 5 more minutes and then
Adrian has
Can
her
I just
hand
say
up.
that SAFE's just hired 2 bilingual Spanish staff. And we recognize that there are about 1/3 of the county is Latino. And so Latinx. So we're really excited about it. And I'm seeing within a few weeks, I'm seeing a difference in who is our clients, how we deal with certain people. I kind of did it in a way like a formula, like, oh, we need to have people of color. We need to hire people of color, right? Like it's a rule. But I'm seeing that it has a profound effect. And I know Catholic Charities also has some bilingual folks. And yeah, it needs to be more, as Gregory said.
Here's a quick question. I want to make sure we offer our closing blessing at 1:30 so that people who can join in that, and then we'll continue the Q&A after that. But I'd like to know, so maybe we could go to the blessing now, or the prayer, Myrna, and then we'll continue the Q&A.
Okay. Holy Spirit, we thank you for all these individuals here today to learn of all the individuals at various county resources, nonprofits throughout the county who are working with heartfelt service to individuals that of need in the community. We're thankful for hopeful moments. While there's more hope, the presentation today provides a lot of hope. and gives us lots of opportunities to think about and be aware of and increase collaboration within our community. We thank you for everyone here and for hope for the future. Amen.
Amen.
Now, David, I can stay for a little bit, but the program committee of SAVE starts at 1:32. So,
Oh, okay. Well, then let's scratch that. And if people have any last minute questions, maybe.
Ken has his hand up.
Yeah, but just a minute. Ken, let me hold you off for a minute. Is there any way, Adrian, well, let's see, all of you have many of you have meetings of our presenters. So I think that Q&A, we'll do what we can be, but we have to let Greg and also Adrian go because you have a 1:30 commitment with Saves.
Yeah, but we don't get started right on time, so.
Okay, so maybe Ken.
I could stick around for a few more minutes, David, if people have something.
Okay, let's start with, let's give Ken his question or hear Ken's question and then just let us know as soon as you have to leave, Greg and Adrian. Don't be stuck here when you can't be.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Could you clarify? I missed what ARPA means.
Yeah, it's the American Rescue Plan Act. The federal government had three things they're throwing out to us. The CARES Act, which was the first $1.25 billion, that includes ARPA. So it was all about coronavirus and it was called CARES. The second is infrastructure, and it's still trying to figure out how it's going to get down to the locals. And the third is Build Back Better, and it's still trying to struggle its way through the Senate. All three of those contain $5 billion, no, trillion dollar, like hundreds of billions for housing. And that's what I'm saying is the unique opportunity. The $350 billion that's in the CARES Act, the first part of that is called the American Rescue Act. ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. And that's what I'm on the committee for the county for. And that's 96 million bucks going to Sonoma County that we're trying to use. But there's another $500 billion coming to Sonoma County in the next year or two.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I think we want to really thank our presenters. There's more hands raised and we'll entertain your questions, but I just want to make sure to give a really hearty thank you to all our presenters and especially to Greg for help pulling this all together. And I know other people, Adrian and others here are instrumental in this work. And so you're also a superstar in this county as far as I'm concerned. I see we have, I thought it's Eileen, did you have a question? And then Grace has one too, or a comment.
Yeah, I got distracted when Kotz was talking. I was just wondering what he had said about steamer landing people.
Yeah, as I remember him saying, it was that there was a part of Kotz occupied up to recently that he was vacating and putting people from there into hotels in order to be able to put people from Steamer Lane into that program, which I had never heard of and was quite excited about.
Yeah, and the city of Petaluma paid for the motel rooms. So that's also pretty interesting. And that was done because of an injunction. So that injunction was powerful.
Grace, do you have your hand up?
Yes. I want, somebody asked about ARPA.
Yes.
I am with the Asian American Pacific Islanders Coalition of Sonoma County. We call it AAPIC, EPIC. And I just sent out an email to our members about ARPA. And so I thought, since you asked, I would put the link of my email about that is with lots of information that you want to know. So I'll put it out here. I'm posting it right now.
And I want to acknowledge that, that committee I was saying that I was on, so is Grace. So you have two of the 14 members of the committee right here. promoting exactly what she just said. Let's get people to apply, and let's try to encourage the folks who haven't ever been in the system to be welcomed and to have projects they feel will help their community funded. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Let me just say it's been a delight, and I really appreciate being invited and being as responded to as you guys have done today. Like we said in the beginning, the tape on this is fairly easy. It takes a while, but it's fairly easy to cut.
Unknown caller.
So let us know if you have objections in any way, and David and I will work on it.
Oh, thank you all. Great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been just absolutely wonderful. And I think it's a testimony to the creativity and the deep heart that all of you who are here from Homeless Action and from the other service organizations are bringing to this. It's really inspiring to me. The long list of all the projects that are happening is exciting too, but just to feel and see the quality of conscience and compassion and solid practical know-how that you are all mobilizing, and wisdom is just fantastic. So so it's been wonderful, and we'll look forward to future communication. And I guess, Greg, I'll confer with you about what we do with the recording and how to make it edit it down or make it available. So that's all new to me, but I'll do my best to pull it together.
Well, if you're the host, it's going to end up as an MP4 on your computer, and I'll work with you to pull it into iMovie and, you know, do anything we want to do with it. And
Okay.
just everybody, what I said to David in the beginning was, there were a lot of people who, when they heard we were doing this, said, gosh, I can't be there, but I'd love to hear what you said. And that was the motivation.
Okay.
Great.
Quick house.
You. Thank you so much, Greg and Adrian, for all the and Grace for all the networking and information. It's been invaluable.
Oh, great.
Well, let's do it again sometime.
Greg, quickly, do you have a way of saving the auto
May I
recording?
put in a plug here?
Yeah,
I
but just a
mentioned
minute.
about-
I want to make sure before Greg goes off. I'm sorry. I know
Oh,
I'm interrupting.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you have a way to do the save on the recording?
No, I can save a chat, as everyone can, but I can't, the host of the show is the one where the video shows up.
Okay, I'm not sure I know how to save it. And of course, we want to do that. So
When you turn this off, there'll be a box that says saving, and just don't touch your computer for about
Click the three dots at the bottom right of chat box.
okay, I don't see, I see view full transcript. That's the written transcript.
No, click on chat, bring it up.
Yeah,
Chat.
That's chat.
Oh, okay. Let me get that. Thank you. I guess I need some guidance to work my way through. So let's see. I go down to the bottom and hit the three dots. Everybody be patient with me. I still don't see anything there. It says save chat.
Yeah, click
But
save chat.
No, we want to save the recording. We made a recording of this.
The recording should appear after you close. It should be on your account.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you
All right.
close it and then don't do anything with your computer for about a half an hour, it will convert it, save it, and then it'll say, where do you want to save it?
I see. So I
If
need
if it doesn't say that, I'll come over to your house and figure out where they saved it.
okay. All right. Sorry, I interrupted you, Grace. You had something you were going to add.
Oh, I just hope to have the chance to give a plug to AAPI Coalition. If you look at that very long email about ARPA, and you will see how to join. If you know of friends or family members who are Asian and Pacific Islanders, but we also welcome anybody who is concerned about the interest of these communities.
Great.
So you can subscribe and get to know what's going on as well. A lot of things will come up because of APA. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's been wonderful to see all of you. I have some final, Helen and Nancy and I have a planning conversation we need
Right.
to do. So
So
we're going to
I
stay
have
on
to leave
together.
now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll let you guys go. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you
it's
for
wonderful.
coming.
And thanks for being with us, Ken.
So. yeah.
So I'm not sure, it sounds like to make sure that we save this thing, I can't turn off the,
So I have a thing, David, that says record. And if I push that button, it says, please ask the host to give you permission to record.
where do you see that?
At the bottom of, I'm on a computer, on an
Okay,
iMac.
just
It's at the bottom of my screen.
Okay,
Participants chat, share screen, record.
share screen. Okay. Go ahead and, okay, you say it makes you ask me permission before you can do it?
That's right.
Okay, go ahead and do